So it was an important day for a company in Ingleside as they christened the first oil terminal to handle very large crude carriers. It's the largest oil tanker to use the port of Corpus Christi, and our Brian Burns was there. Brian.
That's right, Mackenzie. Today's ceremony was held in front of the biggest ship to be able to use Corpus Christi Bay to take on oil from the Eagle Shale and the Permian Basin.
It's an excellent location for marine operations.
Moda Midstream bought the old U.S. Naval facility from Occidental Chemical a couple of years ago to turn the base into an oil exporting terminal. And today they christened Berth 2A, which will handle the VLCC supertankers.
This vessel behind us, the Arrow, is the fourth vessel that we've loaded, VLCC we've loaded in the last month. This class of vessel historically does not traverse the inner ports of the U.S. Gulf Coast. But Ingleside is very special. And with the modifications that we've made to our facility, we're honored to continue the legacy of bringing in big ships.
Bo McCall, Moda's CEO, says the facility is a huge investment and will eventually be connected to oil lines direct from the Permian Basin and the Eagle Shale. The company also announced that in addition to the 6 oil tanks already there, the company is adding 19 more, which will increase storage capacity to 12 million barrels of oil and should be complete by late next year.
We're spending approximately $300 to $500 million. So that's on tanks, that's on terminal pipelines, as well as modifications to the dock.
Several local officials shared the stage to welcome Moda's investment.
Being here today, we are witnessing the continuation of a new era for our port.
This is a phenomenal facility. It's making the coastal bend region, the petrochemical world is right here, right now, and it's happening here in our back door.
While Moda employs 50 permanent employees and 200 permanent subcontractors, there are an additional 300 contractors working on the 19 new oil tanks that will hold 500,000 barrels of oil each. Officials gave us a special tour of the supertanker Arl to look at the ship and the surrounding Moda facility. Now we're told that once the dredging from the current 47 to 54 feet for the ship channel is complete, Moda will be able to fill the VLCCs to capacity so they don't have to travel 25 miles offshore and wait for smaller ships to finish the oil loading. And Mackenzie, just so you know, they're not supertankers. They're a couple of sizes down from the official supertanker, so that VLCC label is the correct one. Mackenzie?
Okay, thank you, Brian. But either way, a big deal for Corpus Christi.